Once your vehicle is raised and supported safely, you're going to remove all 5 lug nuts using a 21mm socket. Remove your wheel. The next thing we're going to do is take a nice small pry bar, and we're going to come right in between the caliper and the rotor and just try to pry back like this, and that's going to push in those pistons. This is the dual piston caliper, so you need to make sure you push in both those pistons at the same time. It's going to go like this, nice and slow. Once you're sure you have your pistons pushed back fully, you can continue. The next thing we're going to do is remove these bolts right here that hold the caliper to the slider pins of the bracket. Use my 14mm. Take out both those bolts. I'm going to continue with that pry bar. Just get this caliper out of the way. Let's get these pads out of here. Next, I'm going to use my 15mm and take out these 2 caliper bracket bolts. Remove that bracket. The next thing you would want to do is just take one of your lug nuts, start it on one of the studs here. If the rotor's stuck on, which this one isn't, you would just take your hammer, give it a little bonk, break it free. The lug nut's going to keep it from possibly coming off and hurting you. Get the rotor right off of here. The next thing you want to do is clean up the hub mating surface where it touches the rotor. That looks pretty good. All right, let's go over to the bench and clean up the bracket. So we're on the bench, we've got our bracket here. One of the first things we need to do is get all this gear off of it. Let's get these tins off of here. Now it's time to get the sliders out of here. Just grab onto them like that. Slide the boot off. You want to take a peek at those boots, just make sure they're not ripped or torn. That looks good. Slider's decent. That one off of there. Get the boot off of here. Take a look at it. Okay. Looks decent as well. We're going to move along to cleaning out the bracket. You want to make sure you have your safety protection because we're going to be using chemicals. I'm going to put some of this inside here. A little bit of parts cleaner. Same one for this one. Board brush. Let's dump it out. Oh yeah, that's nasty. Let's give it another spritz. This one. Just take a peek inside, make sure they look decent. If for some reason they don't, just go ahead and hit them again with the board brush. Something to pay attention to is along this area. You want to make sure you don't have any buildup coming along this. That's right where this boot's going to ride. It needs to make a good connection all the way around to keep moisture out. So we have those edges all nice and cleaned up. The next thing we want to pay attention to is right inside here. That's where those tins are going to ride, and on top of the tins you're going to have the brake pad in between. So if you have any raised areas right here, it's going to cause an issue with those pads being able to slide around. So use a screwdriver, chisel, little brush, or even one of these little sanding discs. Looks like this. And clean that up nice and pretty. Once those look good, of course we're going to do all 4. Once they look good, we'll move along. Let's continue on to cleaning up our sliders. Give them a nice wipe. Then you want to check all these areas right along here. It should be very smooth. If there's any rust or pitted areas, you'd want to clean that up. And then you also need to pay special attention to this area right up along here. That's also where the slider boot's going to sit. So if it's not clean, moisture can get in and mess up this whole area. It's going to make it freeze inside there, and the slider's not going to work as it should. The next thing we want to do is clean up our slider boots. Just take your rag, slide it right on through, just like that, and then grab that boot and just give it a little twist, just like this. That's going to roll the rag all around inside and get off all the crud that's on the inside. Do the same to both. So next I'm just going to add a little bit of this brake caliper Moly grease. It's important to make sure you use the right stuff. Your kit should come with a little packet of it. I like to use a brush. Do all 4 corners. Next it's time to put on your tins. You're going to notice with the tins, you have a large flippy-do side, and then you have one that kind of goes up and then over. You're also going to notice that you have this little side and then a big old flippy-do on that. When you install these, you need to have the large flat end facing down and then the hook facing out and away from the rotor. So it's going to go just like this. Do the same to all. Continuing on with that brake caliper Moly grease, we're going to go right along this slider. And then it's important to remember to get right up along that edge that I told you to make sure you cleaned up. That's right where the boot's going to ride, and having grease in there is going to keep the moisture out. We'll grab our boot, slide it on there, give it a little twist. If you feel like you need a little bit more grease, go ahead and put it on there now. That looks good. Now I'm going to go up along the caliper bracket, right on that lip, and at least try to get a little bit up along that lip. Super important. Put the slider in. Once it's in, give it a nice twist. Perfect. Do the same for the other side. Just going to rest our rotor up on here for a second. Some parts cleaner. Clean down the braking surface. And of course, do the same to the other side. Let's put a little bit of copper never seize on here. Get your rotor. Put it up on there. I have a spare nut and then one of my lug nuts. That's just going to hold the rotor from moving around too much on me. Now if you look at your mounting bolts, if you see thread locker or a whole bunch of rust, you need to make sure you clean up those threads, and then we're going to reapply thread locker. Now it's time to get the bracket on here. I've got my bolts nice and clean with a little bit of thread locker. We're going to start them both in, bottom them out, and then we'll torque them to manufacturer specifications. Let's torque these bolts to 85 foot-pounds. Torqued. Let's get our brake pads on here. So these little pins right here kind of hold the pad away from the rotor. So as soon as you release the brake pedal, they're going to want to separate, and then the rotor's going to be able to cool down as you drive. Next, we're going to grab the caliper, and we're going to coat along the area with the pistons, and then along these areas right here where the caliper meets up against the pad. We're going to use some more of that brake caliper Moly grease. We're going to go all along these pistons, and then like I said, on these ears, only on the mating places where this caliper is going to be touching up against the pads. The reason why we're doing this is for noise reduction and vibration dampening. You're going to notice your slider pins have the flat area and then the rounded area. You want these flat areas to be up against the flat area on the caliper. That's going to hold them from spinning. Squeeze those pads in, of course. Start in both of these. Then we'll bottom them out and torque them to manufacturer specifications. Let's torque these to 25 foot-pounds. Let's get the wheel back up on here. Start on all your lug nuts and then bottom them out. Now we're going to bring this down and torque it to manufacturer specifications. Now with the vehicle's wheel touching the ground but most of the weight of the vehicle off of it, we're going to torque these in a star pattern to 100 foot-pounds. Torqued. We're just going to pump up the brake pedal until it's nice and firm. Do that nice and slow. It's getting close. Oh yeah. There it is right there. I've got a nice firm brake pedal. It's not sinking any further to the floor. Let's go check that brake fluid. So right under the hood is where you're going to check your brake fluid. You have your master cylinder. You can see a maximum line. And of course there's a minimum line. Just wipe off this area along the lid. Make sure there's no dirt or debris. Turn this counterclockwise and lift it up. You take a peek inside and make sure that it's full. If it's not at the maximum, you're going to add some. If it's above the maximum, take a little bit out. This little piece right here, you just kind of push that in like that. If you need to know what kind of brake fluid to use, generally speaking, it'll be located right on the top of the cap. This one says use only .3 brake fluid. It's very important to use only .3 brake fluid. Once you know it's full, make sure you reinstall the cap, wipe down the area, close the hood, take it for a road test.